The sunlight filtered softly through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new penthouse, brushing against the silk blouse I had chosen for today. I smoothed the fabric over my shoulders, but my mind wasn't on appearances. It was on the vibration of my phone that had me frozen in place. One message from an unknown number, yet somehow familiar. "We need to talk about your family's debts now." I had spent years building this life, quietly. Everyone thought I was still the same obedient daughter who would bend to every family whim, but they hadn't seen the real me, the one who had clawed her way up from nothing, the one who had learned that independence wasn't given, it was taken. The city hummed below me, indifferent to the storm inside my chest. My coffee had gone cold, forgotten, as my fingers hovered over the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to preserve this hard-earned bubble of calm, but another part, the part that never let injustice slide, knew I couldn't. The irony wasn't lost on me. The family who had forced me to sell my dream house, to bail them out of their reckless debts, now needed me again. And this time, the stakes were higher. I exhaled slowly, feeling the smooth curve of my desk beneath my palms, the faint scent of jasmine in the room. Today, everything was going to change. I remember that day like it was yesterday, though it had been nearly 5 years. The walls of our family home felt smaller then, suffocating even, as my father slammed down the ledger on the dining table. "Olivia, you don't understand. We need you to sell the house. It's the only way to cover the debt." I could feel the lump in my throat, my hands trembling against the polished wood. The house, my dream house, the one I had found after months of saving, researching, imagining, now had to be given up because my family had made reckless decisions. My mother sat silently, her eyes avoiding mine, while my brother, Michael, shifted in his chair, pretending not to notice the tears welling up. I can't," I whispered, my voice barely audible. This was supposed to be my future, my safe place. "You can't just take it away from me." "You're being selfish," my father shouted, his face flushed. "We're family. We stick together." It wasn't family, it was control. And I had finally realized it. I glanced at the small, silver locket around my neck, a gift from my grandmother. She had given it to me the summer before I moved out on my own, telling me, "Olivia, never give up on what you dream of. They may take your house, but they can never take your courage." Her words echoed in my mind, a lifeline amid the chaos. That night, after everyone went to bed, I sat by the empty fireplace in my room, feeling the sting of betrayal and the cold draft of my nearly empty home. I knew I had a choice: stay, surrender my dreams to their demands, or walk away and build something no one could take from me. By morning, I had made my decision. I would leave. I would sell the house, reluctantly, painfully, but I would not let this define me. Independence wasn't a gift from them. It would be forged with my own hands, in my own way, far from the suffocating shadow of their debts and demands. And so, with a heavy heart but unwavering resolve, I started the journey that would eventually lead me here, safely, quietly, and stronger than anyone could have imagined. Leaving everything behind wasn't easy. The sting of selling my dream house lingered like a shadow, but I carried my grandmother's locket close to my heart, a reminder that courage was mine to keep. I moved into a small, sunlit apartment downtown, the kind with cracked tiles and noisy neighbors, but it was mine, and that was enough for a beginning. I threw myself into work, taking on small freelance projects, anything to prove I could stand on my own.
It was exhausting.
There were nights when I stared at my laptop, eyelids heavy, coffee long gone cold, wondering if I had made a mistake. But then came the day I met Laura Kensington, a seasoned interior designer who had built an empire from nothing. "You have an eye, Olivia," she said, sipping her espresso across from me in that cramped cafe. "Most people see walls. You see stories." Her words felt like sunlight through a storm. Under her mentorship, I learned to transform spaces, to read clients' unspoken desires, and to build my portfolio with care and precision. I stayed late in her studio, hands raw from sketching and measuring, often doubting myself, questioning if I truly belonged. But slowly, the small victories came. My first big client was a boutique hotel that trusted me with their lobby design. The glowing review they left, mentioning my unique, delicate touch, was more than validation. It was a lifeline. Next came private residences, each sale inching me closer to the independence I craved. I learned not just about design, but about resilience, negotiation, and the quiet strength of proving yourself to the world without needing approval from the people who once tried to hold you down. Even as my success grew, I kept it hidden from my family. I posted only modest photos on social media, never flaunting the truth. They didn't need to see that the girl they had dismissed, forced to sell her dream, had built something even greater, on her own terms. The real power wasn't in the recognition. It was in knowing I had the freedom to choose, the security to stand tall, and the satisfaction of finally becoming the woman I had always imagined. I had taken the pain of my past, the betrayal and the loss, and forged it into a foundation stronger than any dream house I could have ever bought. And quietly, privately, I allowed myself to feel pride, not just for the tangible success, but for surviving it all, for keeping my dignity, and for knowing that one day, the past would have to reckon with the woman I had become. It was a crisp Saturday morning when they showed up unannounced. My father, my mother, and Michael, my brother, all expecting to see the same uncertain, struggling Olivia they had left behind. The sight of them in the doorway, shuffling nervously and avoiding my eyes, stirred something inside me, a quiet thrill mixed with decades of hurt. "Olivia," my father started, his voice tight. We need to talk." I gestured for them to follow me into my office, a space they could never have imagined. Sunlight poured over elegant furniture, walls adorned with contemporary art, and a sleek bookshelf lined with my accomplishments, awards, portfolios, contracts. Everything spoke of someone who had fought tooth and nail to rise above betrayal. They paused, taking it all in. My mother's lips pressed together. Michael's eyes widened. The air seemed heavy with disbelief. I poured 3 glasses of sparkling water and leaned against my desk, letting the moment stretch, allowing them to absorb the truth before I spoke. "You wanted to see me struggle," I said softly, "to remind yourselves that you still had control. But here I am. And I'm nothing like the girl you tried to break." My father's face went pale. "Olivia, we didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't look," I said, a faint smile brushing my lips. "You forced me to sell my dream house to pay your debts, thinking it would keep me dependent. You thought I would never recover. But I did. And more than that, I thrived." I led them to the floor-to-ceiling windows, pointing toward the skyline, my business card on the desk, contracts neatly stacked beside it. "I own multiple properties now. I run my own interior design firm. I've built a life on my own terms, with no handouts, no compromises." Michael opened his mouth, but no words came. My mother's hand covered her mouth, trembling. My father's eyes darted around the office, absorbing the reality of the woman he had underestimated. "And there's something else," I continued, letting my voice drop, controlled but unwavering. "Michael's perfect girlfriend, the one you all pretended to admire, isn't who she claimed to be. The truth? She was using him, manipulating the family, and I discovered everything long before you did." Their jaws dropped, their disbelief turning into shame, guilt, and awe in a rapid, disorienting wave. The girl who had once been dismissed, the one they forced to sacrifice everything, now held not just financial power but the truth they had ignored. I let them digest it in silence, the tension thick, the air buzzing with revelations. No lectures, no tears, no shouting. Just the quiet, undeniable fact. The little girl they tried to control had become a force they could neither deny nor diminish. And in that silence, I felt the sweet, subtle satisfaction of finally being seen, not as the obedient child, not as the victim, but as the woman who had rewritten her own story. After letting them take in the truth, I leaned back in my chair and let the silence stretch. It was my turn to speak on my terms. They had come expecting to find the same timid, obedient daughter, the one who would bend to every whim. Instead, they were faced with a woman who had endured, grown, and now held the upper hand. "I will help," I said, my voice calm but firm. But this time, it won't be on your terms. There are conditions, things that must change before I step in. My father's face tightened. Conditions? Yes, I replied. You will stop relying on others to fix your mistakes. You will take responsibility for your debts, learn financial discipline, and respect boundaries. No more asking me to sacrifice my life for your choices. My mother nodded silently, as though she had known this day would come, but hadn't expected it so soon. Turning to Michael, I met his gaze directly. And you, Michael, no more secrets, no more pretending. The girlfriend you tried to hide? Lies have consequences. You will be honest, not just with me, but with yourself. You must face the truth of your actions and start rebuilding trust from the ground up. No shortcuts. No games. I could see the weight of my words settle on them, the hesitation in their eyes, the tiny flicker of understanding. I wasn't punishing them. I was drawing a line in the sand, giving them a chance to grow instead of leaving them trapped in old patterns. And finally, I said, rising to my feet and walking over to the window, I expect all of you to pursue your own dreams. Not the ones you expect me to fund or fix. You will find purpose, and you will find integrity in the choices you make from now on. I paused, letting the city skyline mirror my own journey of perseverance. I care about you all, but I will not sacrifice my life again. Compassion without boundaries is just weakness, and I refuse to go back. Their expression shifted. Shame, even relief. Relief, because they finally understood that I wasn't the same girl they had underestimated. I had grown stronger, wiser, and untouchable by the debts, the lies, and the manipulation that had once controlled me. For the first time in years, I felt the full power of choice, not just in business, not just in finances, but in relationships, respect, and love. I was no longer the girl who had sold her dream house to pay for their mistakes. I was the woman who defined the rules now, and for the first time, they could only follow or change. And in that room, surrounded by my family who had once tried to hold me back, I felt a sense of balance, a quiet triumph. This was no longer about revenge. It was about growth, accountability, and the power of standing firm in your own truth. Months passed, and slowly, I began to see the changes take root. My father started attending financial workshops, meticulously balancing budgets and facing the consequences of his past mistakes. Michael ended his toxic relationship and began volunteering at a community center, learning the value of honesty and humility. Even my mother found solace in pursuing her passion for painting, her canvases finally reflecting her own dreams rather than the family's chaos. Watching them grow was bittersweet. I had loved them fiercely, even when they had taken me for granted, even when their demands had cost me my dream house. But now, the love was tempered by respect for them, yes, but mostly for myself. I no longer needed to sacrifice my future to protect theirs. One evening, I sat by my desk, the city lights flickering like fireflies outside my window. My fingers brushed the silver locket my grandmother had given me years ago, the one that had reminded me to be brave when I felt powerless. I held it close, feeling the weight of every choice, every struggle, every tear and victory that had led me here. I realized that this journey had not been about the house I had sold, the debts I had covered, or even the lies I had uncovered. It had been about me, finding my strength, my voice, and my freedom. And in doing so, I had given them a chance to find theirs. The city outside continued its ceaseless hum, but inside, I felt peace. The pain of the past had been transformed into power, the betrayal into resilience, and the lessons into a life I could be proud of. I had not only survived, I had thrived. I held the locket tightly, whispering to myself the words my grandmother had once said, "Courage is yours to keep." And for the first time, I felt the full truth of it, not as a distant memory, but as the very essence of who I had become. I smiled, knowing that no matter what the future held, I would meet it on my own terms. Independent, unshakable, and unapologetically me. Because some dreams can't be bought. Some truths can't be silenced. And some women are unstoppable.